Hello everyone, my name is Alice and I'm from Bristol Hub. We're working with UBTV for this month to celebrate LGBTQ plus History Month. We're working on the LGBTQ plus Creative Space campaign. So I would like to tell you a little bit about Bristol Hub before we get started. So Bristol Hub is a local branch of the national charity Student Hubs. So Bristol Hub runs different programs throughout the year. For this term, we have 4 programs that are currently running. First is School Plus. For School Plus, we work with local schools and we try to tackle these educational disadvantages that local students face. And we do this by placing university students as academic tutor in these Bristol schools to help the pupils with their studies. And the second program that we have is Link Ages. As you might be able to tell from the name, we try to help these older people feel less socially isolated by engaging them in these fun activities that are planned out by Bristol Hub. And the third one we have running for this term is Inspire, Debate, and Change. For this one, it's a little different from the previous programs because the aim for this is to educate younger people about what is going on politically and to help them gain more confidence and to help them feel more knowledgeable about what's going on and also to inspire change. We have these students running workshops, political workshops for Year 5 and Year 6 students in local schools. Last but not least, we have Social Innovation Program. For this program, we work with a local independent law firm, which is Burgess Selman. It's an 8 weeks long program. For this one, we intend to tackle these challenges that charities, local social enterprise and community organization might be facing. To find out more information about the programs, you can visit www.bristolhub.org. As we celebrate LGBTQ plus History Month, Bristol Hub decided to launch this social campaign, LGBTQ plus Creative Space campaign. For this campaign, we're asking University of Bristol LGBTQ plus community to send in their work, from visual art such as photography to performance art and literary writing such as poetry and anything in between. You can find out the link to submit any of the work that you would like to submit on UBTV as well as Bristol Hub's Instagram. At the end of this month, we will be showcasing all these work on Bristol Hub monthly blog as well as Bristol Hub social media channels.
Hi, my name is Andrew, and I am the brand director of Fuse UK, and I'm the founder of Dakota Strange Visuals. So my kind of art style very much revolves around, it's kind of weird, but it's still like sexy and exciting, and it's kind of the attractiveness that you shouldn't like, but you kind of can't help look away from. I think Dakota Strange is kind of the physical manifestation of my creativity that I was kind of too scared to showcase when I was younger. So I've kind of always had like a draw to fashion. So from being like 14, 15, examining like pages of Vogue, GQ, all of the editorial shoots was kind of always my go-to. And then when I was social media manager for Fuse, so maybe 2 years ago from now, I was in a meeting with the marketing director at the time, and it was just before our event for Berlin. And she basically was saying that she couldn't make it to the event because she was starting a new job, and I was like, oh, like, what did you study? And she was like, oh, I did fashion communication. And on the phone call, I literally had a mental breakdown. I was like, can't believe that I'm not doing this. I've completely gone down like the wrong path. Just feel like I'd made like a massive mistake. So I was like, wait a minute, I'm gonna try to do something. And a few weeks later, Dakota Strange was born, and kind of not let go of her ever since. Absolutely. I love making people a little bit uncomfortable. I think I like making people look like twice. So if you look like across any of my stuff that I've posted online, everything is upside down. I just want people to kind of like take a double take and be like, wait, I don't quite understand that. But then the more you look at it, you're like, oh, okay, it kind of makes sense. And I think that's kind of like a theme that kind of goes throughout my work. So a lot of the things is like colors and textures that don't really like work together, but somehow do in the format that they're presented in. And I think kind of across different platforms, so whether it's like video, motion graphics, more editorial style shoots, like everything I do kind of has that sense of strangeness, unironically. I think different ones for different reasons. I think the first time I created motion graphics was a big one. doing this project here. This was the zine for 2022 for Fuse. We thought we had a much longer deadline than we actually did to create this and place the order before the show. And then me and the other girl who was designing it found out that we only had 4 days. And I had never used the software before. I was a complete novice to kind of this stuff because I'd focused so much on my like academic life in uni that I kind of neglected this creative side for so long that when we started, she was kind of like, okay, you have 3 days and I'm going to teach you absolutely everything you need to know. And from literally 10 a.m. until 10 p.m. every day for the next 3 days, we were together creating this, but so happy with it and so proud of it. And honestly, so thankful that kind of so many people allowed me to take that time to kind of come to terms with my own creativity and not like stress me out about it. Because I mean, when you're working with someone on a project this big, like this was 72 pages, we had 3 days to make it and I had never touched the software. You can imagine it's a little bit agitating, but everyone was so supportive, everyone helped me so much, and now I'm the one designing it from scratch this year, so it's really exciting. I think it's definitely unique. I think I had quite a big culture shock when I moved to the UK from the Middle East. So I was born in Abu Dhabi and I lived there until I was 18. And it was obviously illegal to be homosexual at the time. Things are very different now, but obviously growing up there it was quite tough. So I think when I came to the UK, I was kind of like, whoa, like what is going on here? But now that I've kind of like experienced living in Bristol, I don't think I'd ever want it any other way. I feel like I almost take it for granted now. I remember coming to Bristol and being like, what, like I can go outside wearing like whatever I want, like dressed however I want, and like people actually kind of celebrate it rather than like kind of shy away from it, which was definitely what I experienced growing up. So in comparison, absolutely. I think different cities in the UK kind of have different reasons for being unique. I think Bristol has a strong like inkling to the queer nightlife. I think other cities kind of celebrate it in different ways, but I think that's kind of Bristol's main one. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think the biggest one, do I name and shame the club? Because I feel like that's a bit bad. So one night, I think it was a year ago, I was queuing at it was on a Saturday night, and I take kind of like I said to start with, like a lot of my inspiration from art comes from fashion. So I take a lot like what I put on my back, and we were in the line. They had let like a few of my friends in, and then it was my turn. They checked my ID, and he looked me up and down, and he was like, "You look scruffy." And I was like, "I have never looked scruffy a day in my life." And he was like, "You can't be in this line. Like it's a Saturday. We accept only people like dressed the best." I was like, "You know what? Like maybe it is me." And the minute I stepped away, they let 3 men in tracksuits in straight after me. So from then on, I have never returned back to that club. He said some really horrible things, and yeah, we'll not be going back there. Yes and no. I think in certain areas, like I live on the Triangle, so when I first moved there, I kind of started to go around to a lot of the clubs in that area, which is predominantly UOB. I think kind of a lot of the people that are kind of drawn to that club kind of have that mentality, if that makes sense. Meanwhile, kind of other areas of Bristol are kind of known for being more accepting for queer people. For example, like recently I've been going out a lot more on like Stokes Croft or Gloucester Road, and it's like entirely different there. Like in my head, it was kind of like you will only be like 100% safe if you go to a gay club, which I recently noticed is not the case at all because I've experienced kind of like the other stuff on like Gloucester Road and Stokes Croft. But that kind of energy has been replicated in other clubs generally around kind of like the Triangle area. That makes sense. Absolutely, I think queer history is important. There's so much to learn from people older than us, and I think I kind of grew up without anyone in my family or like anyone in like my near kind of like parameters that was gay or was queer, and I think it kind of led me to kind of figure out a lot of the things on my own. And I think now, because of the people that have come before us, they've kind of paved the way and they've made it a lot easier for us, and I think it would kind of be almost necessary for people to kind of understand where that came from and the struggles that they have been through to allow us to be the way that we are today. Because I mean, me being able to walk around dressed however I like, doing whatever I want, is not as a result of my actions, it's because of the people before me. And yeah, I think it allows kind of a sense of pride to be queer, especially in kind of like the current environment that we're in. Like, it's very important to kind of pay respect to the people that came before us.
That was so weird. Thank you very much.
Of course.
Hi, I'm Soph, I'm 20 and I'm a queer creative living in Bristol. Yeah, I started creating art, specifically poetry, when I was about 18. It was just after my first ever breakup, and which is so cliche, but I needed a way to work that through. And it started out as journaling, and then I realised that I actually really enjoyed the more creative elements of writing. So I started just sort of making my thoughts into poetry, and yeah, I went from there. So I'm part of a very wonderful team that runs a collective in Bristol called Queer House of Bristol, and we specialise in creating safe environments for queer people in the city, especially surrounding nightlife and music. Most recently we had 2 sold-out nights with Duckland, and we have just launched our first solo project at Basement 45, Queer Prom. Queer House of Bristol came into fruition in 2021. My wonderful co-runners Jamie and Hen realised that there really wasn't a open collective that it catered towards queer people's party needs or whatever, and so they started off just running a house party, and then we've grown from there, and I'm so fortunate to be on the team with them. My poetry is what you'd, I think, describe as word vomit. So there's not really that much theme that runs through it. I love exploring ideas of femininity and love, because they're 2 things that I think I relate to most, and they're such personal topics, but also in the same way everyone can relate to, everyone has been through heartbreak. I think my poetry is never designed to be published. My poetry is written for me. I write that as sort of from my experience, and if there's something in that I can publish and share, fantastic, but that's never the aim. And I think I'd like to think that that means that it's as organic and real as possible, because I think when I write with the intention of just sort of processing and sort of letting myself be creative, that's when I create my best work. And thematically, I think that sort of shows in my work, because it's all very personal stuff. I think because my poetry is written for me and not for the sake of being published, I think that a lot of queer younger artists, that's how a lot of us start. And I think that when you start from yourself and not for an audience, you're always going to create better work, because if you're not being true to yourself, and if you're not creating something that you genuinely believe in, then you're just not going to find your flow, and you're not going to find what makes you tick as an artist. But when you're doing it for yourself, and when you're doing it for the sole purpose of creating, if you're just creating for that to be no other reason other than you want to create something, then you're gonna make something good, because it's honest and it's true. Yeah. But yeah, so Sometimes Our Sun is one of my favourite pieces that I've written. This poem is about the female experience, and the importance of female friendship, because I think that is the purest form of love, is platonic love. And I think this is a celebration of that, because in a world where it seems like everything is against you, and where even your existence is threatened daily, as a woman, as a non-binary person, it's very grounding to realise that there's all of you are in that together, and there is that support system. And I think a lot of the time it's an unspoken support system. There's a lot of sort of unspoken love between us, and I think that this poem sort of celebrates that. And again, it all links back to just sort of me processing my own emotions. I think this poem is a celebration of sort of the wider queer community, and specifically sort of female, non-binary friendships, because I think in the queer community they're arguably some of the most important bonds, because it's a support system and it's a way for everyone to relate to each other. And yeah, I think it always links back to me trying to process my emotions, the way I feel about things. And this time when I wrote, it was just very positive and a very sort of beautiful sentiment, which is rare, because I think a lot of the time when I write, it's often sort of quite negative emotions that I'm trying to process, whereas this was more of a celebration, and I think that's why it's my favourite because it is really beautiful as a queer person to celebrate the people in your life that are your support system and have those bonds that like make queer friendship, and especially queer female friendship, so powerful. I've only ever really been queer in Bristol. I wasn't out before I came here, but I think that in itself is a testament to the city that I felt safe enough and secure enough in my friendships, in myself, in this space to come out and to sort of be authentically myself, which I hadn't felt before. And I think there's still ways to go. I think that the queer scene in Bristol is still quite underground, especially if you want to get involved in sort of like directly queer activities. But I do think Bristol itself holds a very special place for a lot of queer people because I think mainly also because it's a student city. I think that these young people come here and for the first time feel that, oh, actually I can be this person that I want to be. I can explore myself and that's safe to do so. Like, obviously everyone's experience is different, but for me personally, I found that Bristol has been the most perfect place for me to grow and explore my sexuality and gender, which perhaps other student cities may not be as welcoming to that. I think LGBTQ plus History Month is very important because I think we, especially in Bristol, especially in the queer scene, we live in what's primarily a world of very much full of love and friendship and acceptance. And I think LGBTQ History Month sort of gives an opportunity for us to remember those who came before us. Like Pride was a protest, Pride is a protest. The queer experience is sort of fighting every day for like people's rights and existence. And as much as being surrounded by love and positivity is fantastic, I think it's really important that we remember those who fought for us and those whose lives were taken in the name of this fight. And I think that the History Month is a perfect time to do that, in whatever form, like whether we grieve, whether we fight, whether we celebrate. I think it's like a really important time.
That was great. That was so great.